Welcome to Author Showcase. I'm Tom Cannon.
And I'm Dixie Jarko, and today we're speaking with...
Grandma Dionne Kelm, author of Grandma Heart's books.
Welcome.
Thank you for being here with us today. What are Grandma Heart books?
Okay, well, Grandma Hearts is my whole series, and actually I wrote that to help promote love, joy, care, and kindness. And so they're very sweet picture books. Age range is probably around 2 to 6, 7, and they're very sweet. I love you books.
Awesome. And where did you come up with the idea?
Well, I came up with the idea probably about 9 years ago. I was on the school board for our church, and a questionnaire went out, and one of the things that came back from the teachers in town was something that concerned them was a lot of children didn't have a regular bedtime anymore. And that surprised everyone on the school board, and I went home and I thought, gee, how could I help with that? And I thought, I'll write a book. Well, that was 9 years ago, and finally about a year ago, I got my first book published. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
So it's quite a process.
It is. Yep, it is a process. And so I kind of started writing different things, and then about a year into that, just, not looking for a publisher or anything, just really writing words, I found out I was going to be a grandma, and so that's how Grandma Hearts was born.
So you were specifically writing for a child that was coming. That's exciting.
Yes, because there's a little section in my book, and my first book, and it says, when first I knew you'd be here, you were tiny like a jelly bean. You hadn't said a single word and hadn't yet been seen. Your mommy kept you safe and sound right below her heart. You were such happy news for me. I loved you from the start. So yeah, it's very sweet. It's very mushy. I'm a very mushy grandma.
No crying on air.
So when did your first book come out?
Well, my first book came out just about a year ago, so that would have been 2017 in March. And so that's the first book, and that's bedtime.
How do you market these? You've done a great job. We want to talk a
I
little
think
bit about...
we need to talk about the toothbrushes. And
We've got to talk about the teeth.
Okay, well, I guess you kind of have to begin with how do you get a book published? How do
Okay.
how do you start? And I really had no idea. And I wasn't good on the computer, and actually my brother-in-law said, Dionne, there's something called the Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustrators. It's the SCBWI, and you should look into that. And so I did, and this was, I believe, in 2015, and they have a conference, and a big conference. They have one in the winter in New York, and this I found out just about in November, so I said to my husband, who's Grandpa Pete, I said, would you like to go to this? And he's always game for travel, so off we went, and I went to this conference, and it's pretty overwhelming. It's huge. There are about 1,200 people, and Lynn Oliver, who is the founder of SCBWI, welcomes everyone. She welcomes all of the published authors and the pre-published authors, not unpublished.
That's a nice way to say
Yes, pre-published. So I learned a lot. I bought a book on how to publish a children's book, how to write and publish a children's book. And, then I went home and wrote query letter after query letter after query letter, looking for an agent, and had to go back the next year to be re-energized because
Wait, did you have it done at the point you were looking for an agent? How does that work with children's books?
I did have it done, and my first book, I did have it written, and I also tried to illustrate it. I was an art teacher for many years, and but it's really very hard, and I did not know any of the tricks of the trade as far as illustrating goes, so it was very time consuming for me, and so actually, didn't find an agent, didn't find a publisher, and went to the Chicago Book Expo in May of 2016, and that's where I found my publisher, Mascot Books.
Nice.
And yeah, it was very exciting, and actually the CEO of Mascot Books is Naren Arl, and he was the one, we spent a lot of time on the phone together, and he said, Grandma Dionne, he said, you got to own that. So Grandma Dionne, there are a lot of things we can do to market this. So he did, we kind of brainstormed. We thought of different things. So that's why we have, like the little Grandma Heart toothbrushes and then, there are lots of different places you can go to personalize mugs and T-shirts and, different things like that. So I just kind of started doing those things. And so that's, I guess, how I've done some of the personalization on some of the things that I offer to people, like a raffle prize or, when somebody buys a book, they can, depending on the event, get a little Grandma Hart's toothbrush complimentary, that type of thing.
Oh, that's really cute.
So if they don't get your book, or it's just a reminder to somebody, they see that they have the toothbrush, kind of reminds them to go back and, hey, buy this book. Go
Sure.
to grandma.com.
Yep, grandmahearts.com, and they can order books from there as well. Mm-hmm.
So you said you went to one conference and then took you about a year, and then you went back to be re-energized. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, because I was a little discouraged at that point because I'd really spent the year working on the book some more and writing that query letter. Has to be like the perfect query letter, which I guess I never wrote. And so sent out a lot of those. And I also started just being aware of what's going on in the industry because I had nothing to do with the publishing industry before that. And so I went to a number of author talks and, different things like that just to meet people, get familiar with that. So the second time I went, I just really explored more avenues, talked to some agents, and but to get a book deal with a big publishing house is very hard.
Oh, yes.
It's very hard.
Yes, the state of publishing today, it's quite the achievement.
Right, yeah, and so anyhow, so that didn't happen for me, and so at this, the book expo in Chicago, I had really explored all the different people that would be there, or the different booths and what they were looking for. And so there was one that I was very excited to meet up with and talk, and they did children's books. They were from Chicago, so I thought the perfect fit. So I had my little book that I did illustrate in my own way, and I took it and found that booth and talked to those people, and right away the lady just started going and shaking her head.
Oh, really?
And right away I knew, she said, oh, no, this grandma looks too much like you. And I said, well, it is
There could be a
me.
reason.
And this child looks too much like a little boy. And I said, well, he is a little boy. And she said, well, that's not how we do it. We want the grandma to be very generic. We want the child to be generic. So somebody picking it up, it could be for a little girl or for a little boy. So I was very disappointed, and at this point, I just really didn't even know if I was on the right track or, what to do. And so Pete came back and took me to lunch, and I even debated whether I'd go back to this big conference. And I did go back, and finally at about 4:30, I looked on my list, and I said, Mascot Books, that's somebody else I wanted to talk to. So I took my little book there, and I had a text for the next book. And at this point, I wasn't even that keen on staying there to see his reaction, so I just left it with him and walked away. And I came back in about 10 minutes, and he looked at me and he said, Dionne, he said, I think you have something here, and I'd be real excited to work with you. I know, it was very exciting. So, and he is Mascot Books is an indie publisher, in that it's not just self-published, that you're a little bit more on your own with Mascot Books. I was assigned a project manager, and I had conversations with the CEO as well, Naren, and actually, because I pay for services, so they did want this check. So,
they always tell you don't pay for anything. So what did they do for the money?
Oh, well, paid to publish the books.
Okay.
They paid for like a publicity package.
Oh,
Just their time, my manager, my project manager. And so I was about to send this check away, and my husband said, let's just maybe take a visit there. They're in Washington, D.C. He said, let's make sure there's an office. So we went and met everyone. Indeed, there's an office, and it's a very good, well-run business. Lots of people work there. And we're just so pleased that I did leave my check there, And so that's how I got my book published. And then, then another thing that was wonderful with Mascot Books was I was able to pick my illustrator. So that was also key. And because at that point, while I love my illustrations, it was so hard for me to do, and it's a series. I knew I could have never done it again.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and so what Mascot Books did for me is they sent me portfolios of different artists. And so I probably looked through 30 or 40 portfolios and narrowed it down to 3. And then those 3 illustrators did test sketches for me. And then I picked the one I liked the best.
Nice.
So, and then then my project manager is really the go-between between myself and the illustrator, and so they just coordinate everything for me.
So now, do you have to pay for an illustrator?
Yep, I had to
okay.
pay for the illustrator as well.
Okay.
But now you have more control over your book.
You
because
bet. Yep,
Yeah.
lots. I had lots of control over my book, and if the illustration came back and there was something I didn't like, I could say,
Wow.
Please, 'cause the first illustration, the little boy had red hair. I don't know why, and because he has, kind of dark blonde hair, and so there were just lots of things. And then one thing about my books, on each page there are little hidden grandma hearts that children can find.
Oh.
So I
Yeah.
could talk about the placement and where I wanted them to be hidden, and that type of thing. So I really had a lot of control, probably more control than they would have liked me to have, because there were a lot of revisions.
Well, right.
So-
Yeah. And to go right from looking for somebody, the first person, the publisher, they do have a lot of expertise, so it's like you kind of maybe want to listen to them because they kind of know the market. On the other hand, you want somebody that believes in you and believes in what you want to do, right?
Yeah, so it's been a really a wonderful relationship. So I would highly recommend Mascot Books.
So that you said it's a series. Tell us about how the series, how it came about.
Okay,
Did you
yeah.
always plan on a series, or?
Well, yes, because I have lots to say. And really, my mission statement is I believe that every child is entitled to love, joy, care, and kindness. And
I love that you have a mission
I
statement.
do. I have a mission statement, and I believe in it so strongly, and that's why I just keep working on this and trying to promote it, because I just feel like when my books are successful, that more children are hearing that message. Really, more adults are hearing that message, because I believe that every parent or caregiver, whoever is taking care of that child, I believe that everyone does love their child, but they have to be remembered that along with just loving a child comes, a lot of work, a lot of care.
work, yep.
Right. And, especially at bedtime, everybody's tired at the end of the day. It's very easy just to let a child fall asleep in front of the TV, or, you need to finish your load of laundry. And so a child doesn't get that care. And so really at the beginning of each one of my books is the short bedtime routine of brush, books, and bed.
Oh.
And really it might just take 15 minutes, but if everyone in the household knows that, for 15 minutes, we brush our teeth, we pick up a bit, we get read to, we get loved, so every child can fall asleep knowing that someone loves them. And that really is my mission statement there.
Awesome.
So tell us about this series. I kind of
Okay.
interrupted you.
Yeah, no, I think I went off on a
No, you're very organized, though. I love that you have that
Okay.
structure.
Okay, so the first one is bedtime, and that just kind of establishes that bedtime routine, and then also it's very joyful. It says, and now you're here, and I am too. We'll have such fun, just me and you. And it's I just take such joy in my grandchildren as I did in my children. But with your children, it's probably more work because it's constant. With a grandchild, you can be joyful for a day and then give them back. And so that is, the joyfulness in my book as well, just reminding people how wonderful it is to have a little one in your life. And so at the end of my books, I even wrote little lullabies.
Oh, my goodness.
So really what I'm trying to instill in a household is that love, joy, care, and kindness, and that care at the end of the day. Children love to be read to. Children love attention. Who doesn't? So, that's really what the series is. So then when I was thinking about my second book, I thought, well, maybe I'll write, since it's Grandma Hearts, I'll write about grandmas. And so So then as I was thinking about grandmas, I thought, I know a lot of wonderful grandmas. I have a sister-in-law who bakes cookies and candy, and I have a wonderful friend who has a swimming pool. I have a friend who is an artist. I have a friend who has beautiful gardens. And whatever your specialty is, and you don't even have to have one, just being
Yeah.
with a child. But so I incorporated that into my second book, of all the different things that, if you love to garden, your grandchild can do that with you. If you love to bake, your grandchild can do that with you, that type of thing. And once again, little grandma hearts are hidden on every page, and there's a lullaby at the end. And then, so after last year, when my first book was published, I've always liked campers. And so we went.
The people or the trailers?
Oh, the trailers, the
Okay.
trailers. They've always fascinated me, but because of our business, we really could never get away. My husband would just laugh and say, where are we going to go for a day?
Yeah.
And so anyhow, we did buy a camper last year. And so it's the Grandma Heart camper, and I've got a big Grandma Hearts, my logo on the camper, my books are on the camper, and a little bit more promotion, right?
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun. And so last year we went, and I just contacted some bookstores, and Annette's Beach Book Nook in Fort Myers Beach was the first bookstore I was at, other than my hometown bookstore of Tribeca, which is a wonderful independent bookstore in Watertown. But I went there and just had real good luck selling to the grandmas. That's grandma season.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, walking past, and once you say, once a grandma sees, oh, grandma, they can
Yeah.
go on forever, of
yeah.
course. And so Annette said to me, Dionne, if this is a series, come back next year with beaches.
Oh,
With
wow.
Grandma and the Beach. And so I thought, well, that's a perfect third book. And so,
And you stay in the camper when you promote your book. Oh, that's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's really fun.
You
Yeah.
know where your audience is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyhow, the beaches, because we're in Wisconsin, and we have this little cottage on Lake Winnebago, I had to kind of include that too. So it says oceans, lakes, and rivers too. There are beaches everywhere for you. And so that's how I got the idea for the third book.
Awesome. Would you like to read something for us?
Sure. I can do beaches. Do you want to hear beaches?
Sure.
Sure, absolutely, as long as we're on the subject.
Okay, so this is a little interactive. For the song, it's the beach cha-cha, and you are going to be the chorus of cha-cha-cha.
Cha-cha-cha.
Okay.
Can do this.
So, like I say, I'm a very mushy grandma, and so one of my little things here is every time you see a heart, know how much I love you, Grandma. So, yeah. And so it's find the grandma hearts hidden on every page. Do you want me to show the pictures as I read?
Sure.
Okay.
However you.
Yeah, okay. So, my grandma always reads to me when I am ready for bed. My grandma reads me lots of books, but well, that's just like when I'm reading to little ones. There's lots going on. But first things first, she says. First, let me tell you, oh, how I love you. Come here, my little sweetie pie, and snuggle close to me. Let me see your clean hands and your just-washed face. Let me see your shiny teeth, your toothbrush back in place. We've picked up all your books and toys, you know we really should. We've put away the crayons and building blocks. A tidy house is good. Now, a story. The ocean, the lakes, and rivers, too. There are beaches everywhere for you. You must have water in all its glory, but the beaches themselves, that's another story. One beach goes on forever. The ocean is far and wide. But on the beach at Grandma's Lake, I can see the other side. A river beach seems unique somehow, a totally different scene. With rocks and trees and plants and such, we wave to the fishermen downstream. We write in the sand with sticks we have found. Grandma says that I am so smart. She draws a silly picture, finishes up with her big grandma heart. We walk the ocean beach in the morning when the sand's all cool and wet. Grandma says that I'll be so surprised at how hot it's going to get. We scout out the spot that we think is best, my grandma and me, then we wait for the rest. Colorful umbrellas pop up one by one to keep us in shade from the blazing hot sun. We're set with our pails, our shovels too, our strainer, mold, and rake. I'm thinking of sand castles. Let's see what we can make. Just a minute. What's this? Oh no, here comes high tide. But Grandma says, don't fret. We'll build another tomorrow if this one happens to get wet. At Grandma's lake, I approach the pier all weathered by the sun. Grandma shouts, be careful, but I decide to run. That happened last year. I lay my belly down on the wood, and soon I get my wish. I peer through the clear, cool water just to catch sight of the tiny, fast fish. As I walk the beach with Grandma, I almost always hold her hand. Grandma looks down the beach, then at me, and says, my isn't life grand? I sit in the tub at Grandma's. She washes my face, hands, and hair to get out the sand and the sunscreen and anything else that's in there. I climb in Grandma's lap. We've really had so much fun. The sun's going down, the shadows are long. Our beach day now is done. My grandma, oh, she loves me, and I love her so. But now it is my bedtime, so she turns the lights down low and says, yes, it is your bedtime, that special time of day. My story will be ending. I don't have much more to say except a promise is a promise. This one I'll always keep. I'll love you for forever. Now close your eyes and sleep. Sweet dreams. I love you. Good night. So this is the beach cha-cha.
Okay.
Did you make that up or the?
I make them all up.
All right. Okay.
Yes. So, days at the beach.
Cha
Cha-cha.
cha cha.
Toes in the sand.
Cha cha cha.
You and me.
Cha-cha-cha.
I hold your hand.
Cha-cha-cha.
The day is done.
Cha-cha-cha.
Gone is the sun.
Cha-cha-cha.
But don't be blue.
Cha-cha-cha.
Because I always love you.
Cha-cha-cha. Yes.
Thank you. So that's my third book, Beaches.
Nice.
Awesome.
Now, is your character going to age as your grandson ages?
Oh, well, actually, the first one, my first book, Bedtime, has my first grandchild. That's Connor.
Okay.
And he just turned 7 yesterday.
Oh.
And then the second one, actually, the little child in that is his sister, Evie. And she'll be turning 5. And then Beaches is my next grandbaby, Piper, and she is almost 2. And then Connor and Evie have a little sister, Margaret. And then
One more book.
one more book. And then Piper will be a big sister in May.
So you're envisioning a different book that features each grandchild.
Right.
then.
Yeah. And
You
when,
almost have to.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
exactly. You're locked in.
At this point.
yeah. But you know, the children are, you know, any child, you know,
Sure,
type of
yes.
thing. There are other children in the pictures. And in Beaches, Grandpa Pete made his debut. I'll show you where Grandpa Pete is, because people would say, when's Pete going to be in those books? So Grandpa Pete is here playing in the water with Connor.
Okay. Sneaking him in.
Here's Grandpa Pete with his hat and his mustache. Yeah. So actually, right now, I'm thinking of what my fourth book will be. And if I would like to have this launch before next Christmas, I really have to get it started now.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking it might be Grandpa's. It could
that's
be,
a good one.
yeah, it could be Reed. You know, all the different worlds that are explored by children in a book type of thing, or it could be animals, because children love animals. So, just kind of, you know, trying to think of what my fourth book will be.
Go ahead.
What advice do you have for anybody writing, especially somebody wanting to write a children's book?
Well, just to do it, really, just to do it. And I don't want to discourage anyone, but there are obstacles that, you know, it might be cost, it might be time, it might be your energy. But if it's something you believe in, if it's something you love, then just to do it, just to write it, to, you know, try and find an illustrator if you need it, or try and illustrate. I know that there are, you know, writers who illustrate their books, which is a wonderful combination. I just couldn't do it.
I think it's sort of rare.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that you need to know before you write the book. There's a certain number of pages, all children's books are, and then the paper's going to have to be thicker. and things like that when you have to look for.
Right, and that's one of the things that Mascot Books helped me with, you know, because they could, you know, and another thing is to look at other children's books and count the pages, and I did that, and they are different numbers,
Yeah.
but, you know, you have your title page, you know, you have your dedication page, you have the information page, and that's, you know, something that Mascot Books helped me with,
You
the
kind of have to
format.
work all that out, yeah.
Right. Yep. The format, the size, you know, how you, you know, all of those things. And then there's, what is that? ISNBBN number, whatever
Yeah.
that. Yeah. How do you figure all that out?
Yeah.
And then another thing that Naren helped me with was he suggested that I find a trademark attorney. So I have,
Interesting.
right, so I have Grandma Hearts, trademarked, copyright, you know, that type
Yeah.
of thing. So we're working on that.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's yeah, there are a lot of things to keep in mind or keep straight, and I'm so glad I went with Mascot Books because they were so helpful to me, especially since this was just a whole new profession or a whole
yeah.
new you know, a whole new, what word am I looking for?
Second career?
Yeah, a whole new industry for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, whole new industry. I had no idea, because one of the things that's so amazing to me is when you look in a library, there are so many books,
Yeah.
and it's really so hard to get a book published, and you think, how did they all do it?
Right.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're great at marketing. Tell us some of the things that you've done for marketing. We looked at the toothbrush, but like
Okay.
you gave us these great little bookmarks.
Right,
You
yeah.
have postcards.
Yeah, and actually the postcards, my third book, Beaches, is just going to be launched in Watertown Friday, the 23rd. We'll have a big book launch party, and it's kind of themed beaches. So we'll have little cookies that are like beach balls, and, you know,
cute.
yeah, different things like that. And so for the marketing, one of the things that Naren said to me is, well, we can kind of start with your Facebook audience. And so this is 2.5 years ago. And I said, well, I'm not on Facebook. And he said, Grandma Dionne, what about your online presence? And I said, I don't have one. And he goes, well, you need one. So when I was planning my book launch party for bedtime, I was talking to the owner, Julie at Tribeca, and you know, I said to her, I know there are things I should be doing on the computer. I have no idea what to do. And she said, well, you probably should hire a kid, you know. And so there was this nice gal who was working there, and she said, maybe Autumn has the time. And Autumn looked over, and she said, sure, I have the time. So here's this 18-year-old. And so, excuse me, I have hired her. And she has really been with me now for over a year, and has helped me with, you know, different things on Facebook. You know, there are Facebook giveaways, there are Amazon giveaways, there are, and I would be plugging away and, you know, pressing the wrong buttons and who knows what. And she comes and does things so quickly with me. And so what I do is I have a notebook, and I just write down all my questions for the week. And then when she comes, she is there for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, however long it takes us to figure these things out. And so she helps me with that type of promotion. So, because now I am on Facebook. My daughter-in-law helped, my friend helped, and
What's your Facebook? Where would we find you?
Grandma Hearts.
Okay.
Grandma Hearts, Dionne Calm. I had to have two, I guess, your personal one and then a business one. So grandmahearts.com, and you know, then you have followers, and you know, I always wonder what they're following. You know, it's a lot of, you know, I have different things, or when I see something, you know, something uplifting, you know, I might post that for the day, or, you know, so who knows what they'll find. A lot of pictures of my grandkids, you know, that type of thing. And
Are you on Twitter?
I am not on Twitter. That probably is
Okay.
something I need to do. Well, there are so
Or is Instagram?
I
There's
don't
Instagram.
I
there's-
know.
There's so many.
I know there's so many, and for somebody who stayed away from it as long as she could, so yeah, I know there are other things, and Autumn is my technical helper, and we talk about those things. Really, what I have now is pretty time consuming.
It
Right.
is. Yes.
Excuse me.
Went to a conference and they said there's all these different social medias, and just maybe concentrate on the one that you like and believe in, you know, so maybe stick with Facebook's, because you can spend time and not just post something, but actually, you know, send out something that you care about.
Sure. Respond to people and then try and find people who are. So have you been to any more conferences? Is this a regular thing you're doing now, or
Well, let's see.
do you go and set up your books and
Excuse
sell
me.
them at conferences?
I have just been invited to be to be a speaker at a first conference.
Okay.
And but otherwise, I do I've been invited to libraries to do talks, and I've been to some independent living. There are lots of grandmas there.
Oh, yeah.
And different bookstores. And one of the things that Mascot Books did for me, I am at the Barnes & Noble store in Naples, Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, because Nara knows somebody there. And so about a month or two ago, I got an email from Barnes & Noble's in Naples asking if I wanted to be an author there. So, of course, I did.
yes.
And it was just on the end of my Grandma Hearts tour with my trailer. We were in Florida, and so just made our trip a little bit longer. And so then I was at Barnes & Noble. And it's real interesting because people will, if I say, oh, I was at a Net Speech Book Nook, oh, nice. I was at Tribeca, oh, nice. And then I was at Barnes & Noble, oh, wow.
Really?
So that's just good just for the promotion
wow
of
factor,
it. Yeah, the wow factor, yeah, so.
So how do you normally connect then with a library to speak or to go to the library?
Well, another thing, because I have, like I said, I have tried to go to other authors' talks and, just participate in the industry. And there was an author, I went to his book talk, and he was talking about being on the radio, and I thought, how did he figure all this out?
Yeah.
What am I missing? And so I saw him again, and then he started talking about his agent. And there were other authors there, and we all perked up and said, an agent? An agent? Do you mind sharing the agent's name? And so he gave me her name. Her name is Sharon Alden, and she's out of Sun Prairie. And so I contacted her, and so Sharon and I have also been working together.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, and so she does wonderful newspaper articles for me, and like a question and answer sheet to pass out to people, and she's just real good at marketing. I've been on the radio. I've had some radio interviews. I had a TV interview, little stations.
Yeah.
But you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so between everybody, I hope to get my message out there.
Great. Well, thank you very much for being with us today. Again,
you.
It's Dionne Kelm,
Yep.
Grandma Hearts.
And the website is?
www.grandmahearts.com.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome.
Thank you for watching. If you'd like to be on Author Showcase, please contact us on our Facebook page or at OshkoshAuthorShowcase@gmail.com. Otherwise, continue the conversation with Dixie and Tom via social media. Look for Dixie by searching for Daisy Jericho, and please check out her books, The Love Thief and Sparks Fly, on Amazon. You can find Tom Cannon on many types of social media, and please check out his book on Amazon, The Towel of Apathy. Our goal is to introduce local authors around Oshkosh and hear their stories. We want to thank the Oshkosh Public Library and the Friends of Oshkosh Public Library for supporting the creation of this show. If you are a writer and are looking for a community, we suggest the Oshkosh Area Writers Club and the Lakefly Writers Conference held each May.